Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Lecture 30, Plato and Political Philosophy, Lessons for Today's World. Today, we will delve into Plato's political thought, focusing on how his insights can still inform how we approach governance, justice, and leadership today. In an era where political instability and inequality are pressing concerns, Plato's exploration of justice and the ideal state offers us a framework to reflect on what indeed constitutes good governance. I strongly encourage you to engage directly with the core dialogues that inform today's discussion. Reading The Republic and the Laws is essential, as they contain foundational ideas on the philosopher king, justice, and the role of law. We'll use these texts extensively, citing key passages to ground our discussion in Plato's original words. Make sure to explore Republic 514a, 517a for Plato's allegory of the cave, which illustrates the necessary ascent toward wisdom for those who govern, as well as the justice described in Republic 433a, 434c, where Plato defines the harmony required for a just society. Additionally, we'll look into the laws, particularly the sections discussing the rule of law, 715b, 716a, to understand how Plato shifted from idealism toward a more practical approach to governance. These references are crucial for anyone looking to gain a nuanced understanding of Plato's political philosophy, so I highly recommend reading these passages in full. Finally, we'll revisit the critique of democracy found in Republic 557a, 558a, where Plato's skepticism sheds light on challenges that remain relevant in today's political environment. Plato's critique offers a cautionary tale about the potential dangers of unchecked freedom and populist governance, making it especially pertinent in our era of political polarization. Engaging with these primary texts will enhance your understanding of Plato's ideas and provide perspectives on the current state of governance and leadership in the world. Let's explore how these ancient lessons resonate with modern political challenges. Lecture 30, Plato and Political Philosophy, Lessons for Today's World. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's lecture will center around Plato's contributions to political philosophy and how these ancient ideas can offer valuable lessons for contemporary governance and society. In a world marked by political polarization, economic inequality, and governance challenges, revisiting the foundations laid by Plato can provide us with a framework for reflecting on the role of justice, the nature of power, and the ideal political state. As we go through these concepts, I will tie them back to specific moments in Plato's dialogues using relevant Stephanus references, giving us a clear, grounded look into how Plato's ideas might still resonate with our current political environment. The philosopher king, an unreachable ideal or a necessary vision. One of Plato's most well-known contributions to political philosophy is his concept of the philosopher king, presented in the Republic. Plato's idea of a philosopher king may seem utopian, yet it offers an important reflection on the qualities required for effective governance. According to Plato, the ideal ruler is one who has attained knowledge of the forms, particularly the form of the good, and uses that knowledge to govern justly. This idea stems from a deep mistrust of democracy, which Plato experienced firsthand in Athens. In the Republic, Socrates describes the philosopher king as one who must ascend from the cave of ignorance and behold the truth, represented by the sun. Plato, Republic 514a, 517a. Plato's allegory of the cave suggests that rulers who lack philosophical wisdom are blind to the ultimate realities that should guide their governance. For Plato, it is not enough to possess power. Rulers must be wise and virtuous. Today, while the notion of a philosopher king might seem far-fetched, it highlights the need for leaders who are knowledgeable and deeply concerned with the common good rather than personal gain. In modern democracies, we see a constant tension between expertise and populism, a dynamic that Plato's idea of the philosopher king directly challenges. Can we imagine a system where those who govern are selected based on their wisdom and moral insight rather than their popularity? While we may not seek philosopher kings in the literal sense, Plato's critique of democracy remains relevant in an era where misinformation and charismatic but unqualified leaders often hold sway. Justice as the foundation of the state central to Plato's political philosophy is the concept of justice. In the Republic, Plato spends a great deal of time developing a definition of justice that applies both to the individual and the state. Plato famously defines justice as a harmonious structure where each part of society plays its appropriate role. For example, in Republic 433a, 434c, Socrates describes the just city as one in which each class, the rulers, the auxiliaries, and the producers, performs its designated function without interference. The rulers govern, the auxiliaries protect, and the producers provide for the material needs of the city. This tripartite structure is meant to reflect the tripartite nature of the soul, with reason, spirit, and appetite each playing their respective roles. Justice, then, is a matter of harmony, both within the individual and within society. Plato, Republic 4041c, 4042d. In contemporary political discourse, the idea of social harmony may seem elusive. Modern governance structures are often complex and fragmented, but Plato's notion of justice as harmony invites us to consider the importance of balance within our institutions. Do our governments and societies achieve balance, or are they skewed by the interests of particular groups? As we face increasing social and economic inequality, Plato's emphasis on each part of society contributing to the common good becomes even more pertinent. Ensuring that governance serves all segments of society is a challenge that Plato would likely argue has not been sufficiently met. The role of education in governance education plays a crucial role in Plato's vision of the ideal state. In the Republic, the education of the guardians is given particular attention. Plato insists that only those who have undergone rigorous intellectual and moral training are fit to rule. Plato, Republic 376d 403c. This education is not merely technical, it is a holistic process aimed at cultivating the virtues of wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. For Plato, education is not just about imparting knowledge, but about shaping character. As he suggests in the Laws, one of his later works, education must begin in early childhood and continue throughout life, always aimed at creating virtuous citizens. Plato, Laws 643b, 644d. This focus on lifelong education reflects Plato's belief that good governance is impossible without virtue, both in rulers and in the broader citizenry. In today's political landscape, the question of education and its relationship to governance is deeply relevant. We live in an era where the complexities of global politics, economics, and technology demand leaders who are not only knowledgeable, but who also possess the wisdom and moral clarity that Plato champions. The increasing influence of misinformation and ideological extremism only underscores Plato's point. Governance without proper education is a recipe for disaster. The critique of democracy. Plato's skepticism toward democracy is well documented, and his criticisms remain strikingly relevant in our time. In the Republic, Plato describes democracy as a system where freedom is valued above all else, to the point where citizens can do whatever they like, regardless of the consequences for the community. Plato, Republic 557a, 558a. According to Plato, democracy descends into chaos because it lacks the guiding hand of wisdom, allowing for the rise of demagogues, leaders who pander to the masses with false promises and shallow rhetoric. The contemporary political scene, with its media-fueled populism and often reactionary movements, mirrors some of Plato's warnings. In an age where political decisions are frequently driven by short-term electoral gain rather than long-term vision, Plato's critique of democracy challenges us to rethink the balance between freedom and responsibility in our political systems. How can we create a political system that respects individual liberty while ensuring that governance remains guided by wisdom? Plato's vision of the law. Plato's later dialogues, particularly the Laws, offer a more pragmatic view of political governance. In the Laws, Plato moves away from the idealism of the Republic and considers how a real-world state might function. One of the key ideas in the Laws is that the rule of law must be central to any just society. Laws, for Plato, are a way to ensure that even those who are not virtuous can still contribute to the good of the state by following a legal code that promotes justice. Plato, Laws 715b, 716a. Today, the rule of law remains one of the cornerstones of democratic governance, yet it is constantly under threat. Plato's insistence on the importance of laws reminds us that no society can function justly without a framework that holds individuals and rulers accountable. In many parts of the world, the erosion of legal norms and the rise of authoritarianism illustrate Plato's concern that without the law, society can quickly fall into disorder and tyranny. However, Plato also cautions that laws must be designed to serve the common good, rather than the interests of the powerful. In the Laws, he discusses the need for laws to be both flexible and responsive to the changing needs of society, recognizing that rigid legalism can sometimes be as harmful as lawlessness. Plato, Laws 769d, 771a. This is a lesson modern governments would do well to remember as they face challenges such as climate change, technological innovation, and social unrest, civic virtue, and the common good. Another key lesson that Plato offers for modern political philosophy is the importance of civic virtue. For Plato, politics is not simply about power and governance. It is about fostering a virtuous community where citizens actively participate in the pursuit of the common good. In the Republic, Socrates argues that justice can only be achieved in a city where individuals act not out of self-interest, but out of a concern for the welfare of the whole. Plato, Republic 434d, 435b. This idea is strikingly relevant in today's world, where political discourse is often dominated by individualism and partisan divides. Plato's notion of civic virtue reminds us that a functioning democracy depends on citizens who are willing to set aside personal or factional interests in favor of the common good. Whether we are talking about addressing economic inequality, responding to the climate crisis, or reforming the criminal justice system, the need for civic virtue is more pressing than ever. Conclusion: reclaiming Plato's lessons for the modern world. As we conclude today's lecture, it is worth reflecting on what Plato's political philosophy can teach us about the world we live in today. At the heart of Plato's thought is the idea that politics must be grounded in wisdom and virtue. His critiques of democracy, his emphasis on justice, and his vision of the philosopher king all challenge us to think deeply about the qualities we value in our leaders and the structures we create for governance. While the specifics of Plato's political philosophy may not be directly applicable to modern democratic systems, the principles he articulated remain profoundly relevant. In an era where trust in political institutions is eroding, where demagogues often gain more attention than genuine statesmen, and where the challenges of governance are more complex than ever, Plato's call for wise and virtuous leadership should not be ignored. We must ask ourselves, how can we create a political system that balances freedom with wisdom? How can we ensure that justice is not merely a slogan, but a reality in our societies? And how can we cultivate a culture of civic virtue that places the common good at the center of political life? These are not easy questions, but they are questions that Plato's work compels us to confront. And while we may not find definitive answers, engaging with Plato's political philosophy can guide us toward a deeper understanding of the challenges and possibilities of governance in today's world.